All right, we are live. Let's see. So far, we just got Shellman and Quality Control in the chat that I see.
Yep, that's all I see.
That's showing I got 4 in here watching. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tailgate Talk. We got my co-host over here, Travis. Yeah, it's backwards on this.
Yeah, it is.
But, Travis Good with Perpetual Project. Of course, this week, obviously, the show's on my channel. So, and before I think I tried to pin the. Well, no, they'll be on the after hours. Pin the link to it to get in live on the after hours. So, but at 8 o'clock after this is over, we'll be switching over to a live show. So we'll let some people in. So we got Torque Racing in here, and what's going on? I seen he had a little issue. I didn't really look into it to see what happened, but it looked like he had a little trouble with one of their cars on a trailer or something. But everybody needs to go check that out. I need to check that out.
Me too.
See what happened. Chucky's Garage is here.
How's it going, Chucky's Garage?
But how was your week, Travis?
My week has been pretty good. It's been a little relaxing. We're leaving next Sunday to go back to Colorado for the holidays. And we had a whole list of stuff we wanted to get done with filming and videos and before we left. And we finally just said, you know what, we're not going to get it all done and taking the pressure off of trying to get we had like 7 videos we wanted to film this week. Just not going to happen. So we're going to not come back caught up, but that's okay. We got enough to cover while we're gone, so we won't have to edit videos in Colorado.
YouTube will still be there when you get back.
It will.
I mean,
yeah, everybody, it's hot. It was hot here today. I was wishing I had air conditioning today. I mean, it wasn't hot like I need to quit bumping this table. It wasn't hot like the summer, but as cold as it's been, and it was almost 70 degrees today, it felt like it was summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I come out to the shop and turn my heat. I got the truck pulled in so I can have somewhere to sit, and then turn my heater on. And it's like that didn't last very long. I turned it back off because it's about 60 degrees in here. It's not bad. Hey, Buff's here, waiting for his bus.
How's your trip going, Buff?
For everybody that's not familiar with what Buff's doing, he's taking a bus ride from Kansas to Texas to go pick up a car and try and get it running. I think it's a mid-90s Pontiac GTP or something like that, supercharged.
98.
Yeah. One of them supercharged Grand Prix. He's going to try to get it running and drive it back home to Kansas. So everybody go keep up with what Buff's got going on. He's got a fun trip going on. Ugly Truck Experience is here. What's going on, guys? It's Jerry and Emily from that channel. If you're not familiar with that channel, everybody go check them out. They do a lot of really cool stuff in their show. A lot of good information. You'll learn a lot from Professor Jerry is what I call him. But especially if you're into LS swaps, they're the people to go to. They've done a lot of them. They do a really good job, and they do some really cool stuff in that channel. So all right, we were talking. You were saying how your week was going and saying everything was good. How's mine? It's been good. I mean, nothing bad has happened. Nobody's died, so that's good.
That's a good week.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working a bunch of overtime this week, and I worked quite a bit last week too. But working a lot of overtime to try to get parts for what my wife calls the 2 T's, taxes and toys. So, that is a benefit of my job with all the overtime available is, if I want extra money and I've got the seniority, I could sign up for overtime and, make some extra money really quick.
Awesome.
But whenever I work overtime there, nothing gets done in the shop, but it's a trade-off. See, we got big block 402 in here. So, all right, our topic tonight, unless you had anything else to add to what's going on this week.
So, the comment that you have up there, so looks like Buff left home with $75 to try to get his free car home.
Yeah, that sounds like a solid plan.
That sounds like a solid plan.
I love it.
Hopefully he took some tools with him.
Oh, Big Block 402 says he's got let me put these together. I had a local friend that watches my channel give me a 454 block.
Nice.
Sweet. Jeff is in here. What's going on, Jeff?
How's it going, Jeff?
Oh, that's J-Bo. I hit the wrong deal. It popped up on me. J-Bo's in here. All right. So our topic unless I've cut you off, Travis.
No, I was just laughing at Buff's next comment.
I forgot to pack the tools. Solid plan, Buff. Solid plan. I love it.
I can't wait to watch that video.
Yeah. I'll do what me and Mrs. Squarebody done. We went down to Florida a couple years ago to pick up her son's 92 Camaro and drive it back. Because he was getting stationed to Arizona. Didn't have a good way to get it back home to Missouri to his dad's house. I think I've told this story before, but yeah. We flew down there, and I just went to Harbor Freight and bought a bunch of cheap tools and a jack. And I was needing a new floor jack anyway, so we just bought a bunch of stuff at Harbor Freight, came home. Luckily, we didn't have to use any of it.
Amber and I were on our way home from Louisville in the white truck one time and broke the serpentine belt. I had a serpentine belt in the truck. I did not have a ratchet to change it. It was like 8:30 at night. I paid a tow truck driver $75 to borrow his 3/8 ratchet for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't go anywhere without my tools now. I have a little toolbox from car to car. Whenever I'm driving anything, I have my tools with me.
Yeah, that's why, we decided just to buy some cheap tools. And that actually gave me a whole nother set of tools to like keep in a box still in the truck or, But let's get to our topic tonight real quick. I got to thinking about the topic, trying to come up with something, and it popped in my mind like our worst mechanical fails. Not like breaking stuff, which everybody knows that knows us, we're good at breaking stuff.
Yeah.
But like the worst wrenching fails is what I've kind of come up with is, working on something and just being dumb. Yeah, just putting stuff in backwards or the wrong way, even though you may know better. And that's the worst one, is because you know better and you do it anyways and don't think about it,
Yeah.
So let's see. If you want to go ahead and start off, Travis, you said you've got a small list of one or a few of them that you want to talk about.
Sure.
We got to tighten the main cap. That's a bad one.
I have one. So that's one of the ones on my list. And I've talked about this before, which the main cap was the second time around. When we built the first Dodge motor we built for our Circle Track car, we got it all together and didn't like the piston to deck clearance. It had too much. So we took it back apart, took it to the machine shop, had them deck it. Everything went great with that. Got it home. And since it already had all the freeze plugs and the cam bearings and everything like that in it, we we decided that we didn't want to take the time and spend the money to pull all the freeze plugs and the main bearings and all the plugs and rewash everything. So we just put it together, figured it'd be all right. It lasted about 10 minutes and spun a main bearing. And then that main bearing starved an oil rod bearing, and then it started knocking. And luckily, the car caught on fire because the valve covers were leaking. So when I came off the track, you couldn't hear it knocking on the track, and the oil pressure still looked okay. But get it off the track, the oil pressure went low at the lower RPM, and you could hear it knocking. So then we pulled it apart, and we're like, oh, okay, well, the crank didn't get hurt because we didn't run it long enough to really hurt anything. So we took it, blew it completely apart, pulled all the freeze plugs, pulled the cam bearings, bottle brushed the block, got it all clean, put it back together, and that main cap apparently got a little bit hot, and when they go down in there, they fit into that saddle. It was
register,
just a tiny bit loose in the register.
Yeah.
So we made the command decision: the bolts will hold it.
Oh,
I'm here to say they won't. It lasted about 45 minutes. No, not that long. It probably lasted 30 minutes the second time. It spun the same rod bearing. That time it got the crank and like 3 rods. And those 3 rods loosened up enough that it had piston to valve problems and dented pistons. And that was the end of our prospects for building Dodges, because at that point we were out of junk parts to put together. So yeah, that's one of my engine building failures. And it was just a bonehead move. We did, and Richard and I were talking about this. It wasn't that we thought we were doing something wrong. We were trying to get away with something, even though we knew it wasn't exactly right, and we figured it'd be all right. And now we know better, and it's never happened again because we know better.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, teaching my kids, and I try to tell myself this and tell everybody this: there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. Even if you know what you're doing, you make a mistake. It's what you do with that mistake and how you handle that afterwards. And it's okay sometimes to make that mistake twice, I guess. But but if you don't make any mistakes, you're not doing anything challenging enough.
No.
So
and you're not learning
that's the thing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and actually, tell other people about them. Maybe help other people not make the same mistake. But we got Torque Racing. He's got one here. I haven't read it quite yet. When I built the rear end and reefer, I had checklist, and for some strange reason, I had checked off that I did add fluid, but he didn't.
Ouch.
Yeah, mate. Ouch. Yeah. Yeah, I had when I was putting together Squeaky and we got him to Sykeston, I had that oh crap moment because I could not remember if I put fluid in that rear end, because that rear end sitting in the side of my shop there on the edge of the shop inside for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then once I got it in the truck, it was in the truck for 6 months. And then trying to get everything else together, I almost forgot it, but I did put fluid in it. But yeah, that's a good one. Let me see if we get another comment in here.
Chucky's Garage forgot to put the push rods back in.
Oh, that'll do it.
One time I put the timing belt on a Mustang with the distributor 180 degrees out and fought with it for 2 hours to figure out why it wouldn't start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recently,
the comments I had on the startup of that 76, I had the comments were like, check the timing. I'm like, the timing's good. I didn't pull the distributor. And then it finally got registered in my mind what everybody was talking about. They were referring to, I think, your debacle with the Mustang.
Could be that, yeah.
We've got there's my cousin Brad. He's back in here tonight. But yeah, we everybody go through these comments. We got some people putting some good stuff in the comments.
For sure.
So I don't know about my worst one. The ones that I can remember, I earlier this week I called Travis, let him know, or late last week, called Travis, let him know what my idea was for this, so he can kind of get some stuff going. And when I first thought of this idea, I had a real doozy. Still can't remember what it was, Travis. Still can't remember it.
Remembered?
No, but one of the other ones I did have wrote down, but I don't have my paper with me because I forgot and left it in the house. But one of my mistakes that could have been fairly catastrophic, but wasn't, was the big block that's in my crew cab when I first built that engine. Which building that engine at that time, I wasn't making very good money. Raising 6 kids, making a little over minimum wage. Trying to build a big block and do it all right. It took several years to get it. And once I finally got it done, that engine was like my prized possession. I had a lot of money wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And I relied on that truck to make a living for us in the wintertime with hauling wood. Well, I think it was the second oil change. I was changing the oil, had it in the shop, and I needed to do something. I can't remember for sure if it was on the distributor or the carburetor. But while the oil was draining, because it was kind of cool, so I've always been one that, like, I'll pull the drain plug and let it drain for a half hour just to make sure every last little drops out.
Yeah.
So I was letting the oil drain, mess with some other stuff, got that other stuff done, all excited about how it's going to run now, see if it's going to run any different. Hopped in the truck, started up, let it idle for a second, and then started kind of revving it to see if check the throttle response. And it's like, well, it's snappier, but man, it's noisy. Why is this thing so noisy now? And I looked at the oil pressure gauge, and it's still sitting at 0. I'm like, oh. Yeah, I shut it off. Drain plug still sitting there in the oil pan. Like, oh my gosh. Second oil change on a fresh motor. It probably didn't even have 1,000 miles on it.
So did you put the drain plug back in and fill it up?
Yeah, put the drain plug back in and filled it up. Of course, I always run Lucas, and I say that Lucas is what saved that engine. I'll go to my grave and say that's what saved that engine, because it's actually making some heat on the temp gauge. I let it run long enough.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that was that could have been catastrophic, but it's still running. That's been 10, 12, 13 years ago, and it's still running good.
I was sold on the Lucas, like when I had that diesel shop. Every engine, when I would like pull the valve cover off to do overheads, I could tell by pulling the valve cover off if it was a truck that got Lucas every oil change or not, based on everything inside the valve cover. It wasn't like sludgy and like a buildup of oil, but it all had a good, thick, sticky coating of oil when you pulled the valve cover off one that got Lucas. And it was clean inside, and I put Lucas in everything.
Yeah, that's the same thing I've noticed on the engines that I've personally ran that run Lucas either the whole life or the whole time I've owned them. They stay clean. They have that. It's not, like you said, it's not like a buildup, but it's a film. It's a good film of stickiness, and they stay sticky. But it's lubrication, so they never get started up dry.
Yep.
And I've got,
even if there's no oil in the pan.
Yeah, even when there's no oil in the pan. I've got engine parts out in my shed that's been sitting out in the elements. I mean, undercover, but out in the elements for years, that still have just like a little bit of a film on them because they have that Lucas.
Yep.
See, there was Mrs. Square Body's taking care of me. She went and got my list. I only had 2 things on the list. Truck fire. That was a real dumb moment. But what else you got on your list, Travis? I'll let you.
So we'll go back and forth. A bonehead move, kinda. So I was partners on a shop, on the diesel shop, and we brought a truck in, a semi, and a little dump truck, and I was putting a clutch in it. Well, those semis all have a huge twin disc clutch, and it wasn't my first one that I had done, but it might have been my second or third. So I get under there, and they're heavy. They weigh like 125 pounds. So I did it the same way as I did as I had in the past, which maybe it was my fourth or fifth. I don't remember. But while it's in the box, I stuck because the clutch alignment tool we used was actually an old input shaft that we cut off, because they sell plastic ones, but you're trying to hang this 150-pound clutch from this plastic tool. It doesn't work. So we had a metal one. And so I stuck it in the clutch in the box, pulled the whole thing out, stuck it up on the truck, put the bolts in it, put the whole transmission, the whole truck back together, put the rear end or the drive line back in it, button everything up, because you got to take the fuel to the steps off the side to get the transmission out, exhaust, all of it. Put it all back together, got in, started it up, pushed the clutch in, wouldn't go into gear. Clutch wasn't releasing. And I'm like,
oh.
Yeah. And I told this guy, I'll have it for you tomorrow morning. I pulled it out. I was going to do the clutch in one day for him. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. I made a bad clutch. I'm really not sure. So the next day I pulled it back out again, got it on the ground. And apparently in that box, one of the discs was flipped over. So the two faces of the discs were sandwiched against each other. So yeah, that was never ever put a clutch in straight out of the box for the rest of the time I did them, and I probably did hundreds of clutches after that. Never made that mistake again.
Big Block says Lucas is a good dude. He might have saved the 402. I don't know. I don't know. So Irish Outlaw, his comment. Yeah, that's another one I've done that I didn't get on my list, and it wasn't really that long ago.
Yeah.
It was on a red square body I'd bought, the one I traded for this truck. It had some aftermarket aluminum wheels on it. It was a 4-wheel drive. I think I rebuilt the rear end or done something to it, put the wheels, tires back on. And Shellman was my youngest son, Shellman. He's in the chat. Yeah, this is his comment to what he knows is getting ready to come up. But I slapped the wheels and tires back on it. It's like, let's take this thing for a drive. So we took it for a drive, and man, I was like, man, this thing's running good, and going down some hills and stuff, around corners way faster than I should have been. Coming around the corners, like, well, it's shimmying a little bit. It's like, well, I'll slow it down a little bit. Well, I got going straight, and it felt fine. So I was probably doing 70, 75, top the hill, and the truck, shakes, and I see sparks. It's at night. I see sparks coming from the driver's side rear axle. It didn't really feel like the truck dropped down that much. I'm like, the Shellman, hold on. I don't know what's going on, but we're throwing sparks everywhere. Then I realized, we don't have a tire.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so was going downhill, and just sparks flying. I just kept on going, and surprisingly, it really didn't try to pull the truck anywhere. And almost made it up the next hill, and that drum and everything just sitting there spinning on the asphalt.
Not getting good traction, huh?
Yeah, so I locked it in 4-wheel drive, drove down the road to the next gravel road, pulled it off, called Mrs. Squarebody. She came and rescued us. And then the next morning I got up early and I drove it up on the trailer without a back tire on it. Just kept it in 4-wheel drive, drove it up on the trailer. But it was one of those moments, like, I don't know how many times I've told my boys when they're working in the shop, if they're putting tires on, always put a torque wrench on your lug nut. Always, always, always. Well, what does Dad do? Dad didn't do that. And we never did find the wheel and tire. It's gone.
Did you see the first part of Irish's post where he said that he didn't lose the lug nuts? They were in his driveway.
Oh, no. I didn't see that part. Hidden Hollow Loft in here. We got the dust shield. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an easy one to forget.
Still doesn't make you feel any better. like those memes on Facebook where you see, you know, everybody, you know, I just got through putting the transmission in my vehicle. What's this extra torque converter doing on the workbench? Ryan, Streetcar Chronicles is in here.
Yep.
See, I'm trying to go through the chat. He's going on. Irish forgot a oil filter on a 60 series Detroit. Yep, start. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that done. They'll pump 10 gallons of oil on the ground in a hurry. I think the one I saw was a cat, though.
Yeah, and Shellman, after I lost my wheel and tire, what did Shellman do? Same thing. At least he done it on a gravel road. So, yeah. What's next on your list there, Travis?
Well, wait. I think it's your turn to tell us about this fire you had on there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You got me intrigued now. I need to hear the fire story.
Okay. Well, this is at my old shop. It was just a 30x40 pole barn, gravel floor. Had the big sliding door to get in and out of. I was working on a friend of mine's 1-ton 2-wheel drive square body with the 4-speed, granny low 4-speed. He wanted me to rebuild the carburetor on it. Like, okay. So I just nosed it in the shop, had some other stuff in the shop. Like, well, I'm not going to clean the whole shop out because this had a 14-foot bed on it. It was a big, long truck. So I just nosed it into the shop. Or no, I just pulled it up to the shop. Not even in the shop. Had the hood up, rebuilding the carburetor sitting on the workbench, and it started raining. I mean, raining pretty hard. And here I've got the hood up, and it's starting to get water in the intake. I'm like, oh. So I just hopped in it, put it in granny low, and sat there and held the key. Run. And then it went from 0 to like 5 million RPM all at once. And I hit the brake, and immediately realized what I'd done. I hit the brake and the clutch. I mean, it came to a halt, and all shutting it off, and it still like screamed. I don't know how that engine kept from like scattering.
Huh.
And then as soon as I shut it off and got it stopped, then poof, fire coming up from the engine bay. The hood's still up. I've got it in my shop now. I can't back it out. So now I've got fire. I'm like, oh crap, no fire extinguisher. And I get the fire put out, and then I realize what I'd done. The fuel line for that Quadrajet, it's sitting right there like this, dripping down into the intake. So whenever I hit the key and driving it in, it was just shooting raw fuel into those big four. It's like having a Dominator wide open on it.
So wait, was the carburetor was off of it then?
Yeah, but the fuel pump
had fuel pump pumping fuel straight into the.
Yeah, with no way to meter it. It was just all fuel, all big barrels, all 4 barrels wide open. Yeah, so I got the fire put out. I had to rob some wires off of a truck of mine to patch some of his wires, plug wires. Well, it got the harness behind the engine just a little bit, but because it had enough fumes and stuff that the distributor caught on fire is what it was.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was this very, very scary moment because
I bet.
At first it was just the truck was trying to barrel its way through the whole shop because it was in granny low with 456 gears, running about 10,000 RPM. It seemed like.
Oh wow!
And yeah, that was probably one of my dumbest moves.
So
yeah,
we got a message on Facebook Messenger here.
Yeah, I seen it pop up. I didn't get the chance to read it.
It's there's a question in the comments. I'm trying to remember the name.
813 Murdoch.
It's Murdoch asking a question about, I think it was something about a 700 R4.
They took the question and then do more information. So there's 2.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, he's a fan of mine. I've talked to a little bit on Messenger. Install the 700 R4, and when the lockup, let me there. That way everybody can see what we're reading. The only way you can really raise the RPM like that is to put lower gears in your rear differential. Sounds like you've got really, really high gears in it. I'm not sure which vehicle you're in. I'm going to assume you're square body, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, he's got another one here. He says, he's saying the RPM is too low in overdrive and is trying to kick out of overdrive.
Yeah. Because when it locks up in overdrive, when overdrive kicks in, the overdrive kicks in, you're going to like 0.78 to 1 or something like that, 0.7 something to 1. So you're overdriven and your torque converter's locked in. It might not be going in and out of overdrive. It may be locking and unlocking the torque converter. But if your RPMs are just way too low for your liking like that, the only way to change it is different rear end gears or shorter tires, but to get your overall gear ratio lower. So if you've got like 276 gears in it and you go like 308s or 342s, I hope that answers your question, Mr. Murdoch. Oh, we got a Mr. Just below that was Mr. Bad Luck. I like your channel. Thanks, bud. Mr. Bad Luck sounds like he might fit in here pretty good with that name. Let's see.
What says or drive faster.
Yeah.
How's it going, Blake?
It maybe, it depends on, if it's shifting into overdrive too early, that may be a TV cable adjustment, but you got to be careful with that because if you don't get it adjusted right, you can burn up the transmission. Blake's in here. What's going on, Blake? Blake's got a new toy. Everybody needs to go to his channel and check out his new toy. Trying to run through the chat here. Okay. Yeah. 318 Murdoch. Yeah. I hope that helped out. I think, if I remember right, your name is Steven. I'm not real sure. I'm bad with names, horrible with names. So I just try to stick with, okay, yeah, it's an 80 C10. So, yeah, I got my fire story out of the way. And that's not the only fire story I've got. The other one, I caught my Suburban on fire. Same shop. Little bit different scenario, but I don't remember. No, it wasn't Suburban. I was thinking of actually when the shop burnt down. Oh. That's a whole nother. We won't get into that. That was a bad day.
Yeah.
That turned into a lot of, yeah. The reason I thought it was Suburban is I had to run to my Suburban to get the fire extinguisher out of the Suburban to try to put out the fire, but it was too late.
Oh, wow.
I
have a fire story from the drag strip when I was 16 or 17, adjusting the floats on a Holly carburetor. It wasn't me. A buddy of mine was working on his Holly carburetor, adjusting the floats, and he backed the screw off a little bit too much. Well, it started pouring fuel out of the top of the bowl there. And he was trying to get the float level down so it would quit pouring fuel out. Well, I don't remember exactly what happened, but the aftermath was something caught the fuel that was now all over the intake on fire, but nobody thought to shut the electric fuel pump off. So I'm out there with a t-shirt or my sweatshirt or whatever. I took it off and I'm trying to pat this fire out. Well, it's just dumping raw fuel on this fire. Finally, one of the track guys there grabbed a fire extinguisher and put the fire out, but that was a bad day. It burned up a bunch of wiring and parts, and it was a nice race car too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now if I had any. I know I've had more, but just none of them are idiot moves. I've had a lot of them. I think one of them I put a flex plate in backwards, and knowing better, it wasn't my first one.
Yeah.
I think I put a flex plate in backwards. Didn't realize it till I already had the transmission in, getting ready to bolt the torque converter up. Like, oh man.
I've got one that's kind of a flat cam disaster story, but not. So after we blew up the Dodge, I was going to build a 377 for my race car, 400 with 350 crank. And so in the race cars, we were trying to run somewhere around 12 and a half to 1 compression. Well, the pistons that we had were flat top pistons. So we thought, oh, great, we'll just buy a set of 49cc dart heads. And we were buying, I guess they were Blemish heads off of eBay. We're getting a good deal on them. So we bought these heads, put it all together, fired it up, ran it for a little while, changed the oil. It was a metallic milkshake in the oil.
Oh, crap. No.
So we pulled it apart. What happened was we didn't know 49cc heads, they angle mill them to get the smaller chambers. So they don't have the same valve angle. And so the valves were hitting the pistons, which we should have checked, but we didn't. So we're like, okay, the valves hitting the pistons when we were trying to break the cam in, flattened the cam. So we put it all back together. We took the pistons down to a machine shop, had them fly cut the valve reliefs to the right angle. So everything was good there. Checked all the piston to valve clearance, put it all back together. And just to make sure that we didn't have any more problems, we went and got Isky Rev Lube to pre-coat the cam. Is the best stuff you could get to pre-coat the cam. Put it all together, break it in, drain the oil, metallic in the oil. Like crap. So at this point, I'm defeated, and I'm like, well, whatever. We'll just build a different engine. So that one got pushed to the side and got a 327 that we had all the parts for. So we put it all together. Same thing, Isky Rev Lube. Got it all put together, broke the cam in, drained the oil, metallic in the oil. So we put that one to the side and built another motor. We had and actually we didn't build it. It was a motor we had in another car. It was just a turd 5.7 rotted 350. Threw it in there, went racing. A week or so later, we were figuring out what we were going to do for an engine. And I don't even know what made us think of it. Isky Rev Lube is a moly-based lubricant that has metallic in it. So I took a little Isky Rev Lube, put it in a cup of oil, mixed it up, the same exact thing that we had in the oil pan of both of the first one did flatten the cam. The rest of them, there was nothing wrong with them. So then, by then we'd already pulled the 377 apart. So I'm cleaning everything up to put it back together and broke a piston ring. And that motor's still sitting at the house in Colorado with a broken piston ring. So yeah, that was and we learned. And so when I put my 440 together for the red truck, I used Isky Rev Lube. I didn't even look at the oil when I drained it out. I checked the filter. There was no big chunks in the filter. I didn't even bother looking at the oil because I knew it was going to look like metallic.
Yeah. Shane, does anyone else put a brake pad on backwards because you're in a hurry? I don't know that I've done that. It wouldn't surprise me if I did, because that's just one of those things that kind of happens.
Yeah.
Like we were saying earlier, if you don't mess something up every once in a while, you're not doing anything challenging enough. And
you're not trying hard enough.
And some people say, well, brakes, that's so easy. That's not challenging, but it's still, it's still easy to.
It's one of those monotonous things where it's so easy that you can easily mess it up because you don't pay enough attention.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a couple other ones I thought of that didn't get wrote down, and bonehead moves, blonde moments, as QC called it earlier. And as you know, I like building engines. Working on engines, building engines is one of my favorite mechanical things to do. And but so inevitably you're going to have this issue where you put one 180 degrees out. And I've done that so many times that, it's just one of those Achilles heel type things I have that, but since doing it so many times in the past, no one even double, triple checking,
Yeah.
Inevitably, I think what I do is I turn the engine over one more time doing something else or checking something else and forget to. And also, what's worse than that is when I'm putting plug wires on, and it's usually on a vehicle that I've already, worked on and just pulling them off, putting them back on. I'll get number 5 and number 7 on the Chevys. Mopars are, I think, the same firing order, but you get 5 and 7 swapped around. So you go to start it up, and it's like, what happened? And you start looking around. Of course, nowadays, if I start one up that ran fine and I done plugs or plug wires, if it don't run right, then I know exactly where to go. But those two mistakes I haven't made in a long time, but I made them too many times in the past. maybe I've finally learned from all those mistakes.
You just you just reminded me of a good one, not a firing order problem. And it was just not doing enough research and not understanding how what I was working on worked. So when I was building the Hemi for my Magnum, I didn't want MDS because MDS is terrible and it kills everything. And so I didn't want MDS. So I bought plugs. In fact, I've got them sitting right over here on the bench. And you take the MDS solenoids out and you put plugs in it. Well, I'm looking at everything and I'm like, well, I'll just put the plugs in and it'll be fine. I should have done more research. If you have MDS lifters, you have to run MDS solenoids, because when I looked at the engine, I was looking at everything and I thought that those MDS solenoids would pass oil to the lifters when it was activated. And I was right. And I thought that the plug would stop that. What I was wrong about is the plug does not stop the oil. So when I fired it up, I had a great running 4-cylinder actually, I had a 4-cylinder for about 10 minutes until 2 of the injectors plugged up, which that wasn't my fault. That was just old injectors that I found them in the back of the car. I just put it back together. It was kind of probably a bonehead move to use them, but at that point it wouldn't run at all. But I could not figure out why this thing would only run on 4 cylinders. And I fought with it for 3 days. And finally, after searching and searching and searching, I realized what I did and bought a set of MDS solenoids, and still runs good now.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee I'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank on any more. Like I said, I know I got more. I mean, I'm not very bright sometimes, so I've got lots of mess ups. But like we was talking, I think before we went live, that it's part of the reason why I am where I'm at today in my mechanical abilities is because I've made so many mistakes in the past. But I don't ever let the mistake defeat me or say, well, I'm just not smart enough to do this. There are times where I'm like, I don't have any business touching a wrench anymore. Just sell everything.
So when we were talking about this, I was trying to think of some standout things where a major failure happened because of something I did. And I couldn't really think of any major failures, but there's countless little things like putting those plugs in instead of the solenoids because I didn't understand how the oiling system worked. And it's just weird because that motor oils strange. It doesn't, and I don't remember what it was. If I'm not mistaken, and I probably am, so I'm not going to say it, but it just oils different. It doesn't oil like you would think it would oil, like an old, like a small block, like a Chevy or a Dodge, which a Dodge oils different than a Chevy because it doesn't oil through the push rods. It oils through the heads. And that Hemi, I'm pretty sure also oils through the heads, but it was just different. And I looked at it and I didn't have enough knowledge to do what I did just off the cuff. I should have done more research.
Jay's like, his biggest bonehead is I gave my dad the wrong wrench. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, actually, my wife and I were talking about this very subject the other night because when I was a younger gopher, learning how to do all that stuff, helping my dad, if he'd send me go get a wrench, I learned really quick. If he asked for a 9/16, I would grab a half, 9/16, and 5/8. That way I had both sides of it covered because I got tired of, it wasn't the fact that I got tired of walking back and forth. It was the fact that I was tired of Dad getting mad, because once Dad got mad and got frustrated, it made the whole job worse.
Yeah.
So I learned really quick, like, okay, if I step up my game, this is going to be more fun, and I get more time watching what he's doing instead of him being mad. And so I would grab extras, and then if he would like doing electrical stuff or need nuts or bolts, if he asked for a butt connector, I'd grab a handful of them, or a nut or a screw, I'd grab a handful of them. And sure enough, he'd be doing it like, oh, could you go get me another one of those? And he'd, act upset, and I just hand him one. I said, here you go. He's like, where'd you get that? I said, I grabbed a handful whenever I went to go get the one that you wanted. He's like, huh, you're pretty handy to have around. So I guess that could be like, I turned that into a non-bonehead moment.
Yeah. That's like Chucky said, the never holding the flashlight in the right place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I'm guilty of that too. I'm like, it's just hard to communicate exactly where you want the flashlight to be held. And if who's holding the flashlight doesn't know what's going on, it's very hard for them to get it in the right spot. So it's better just to hold the flashlight yourself.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm going to use that for a segue. Thank you. Because, I mean, I'm sure we've all seen these guys floating around the internet. Buff is also I guess they call them ambassadors to sell these, or not really sell them, but you can buy them through use his link. I'm also getting set up with Odelfi, or however you pronounce it. Don't even know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to have a link in the description box. Well, I might have to do it on this. I'll try to figure out how to do it on this live after it's over with. I'll put the link for these with the code that you get. I don't even know what % off, but you get a % off. They're not really that expensive. And best headlight I've ever used. And
yeah.
Like in my last video, the last few videos, I've been putting new lights in the shop and got those little lights from Harbor Freight. I like light.
Yes.
And so, and I've used headlights for years and years, back before they were even cool. And this is the best one I've ever had. So go, if you can't do it right now because I don't have the link in the description right now, but after this is over, if you're rewatching this, I'll try to get that set up, put a link in the description to go pick you up one of these good Christmas presents. I'm not sure if this is actually a sponsored thing. I'm not sure how to do that through YouTube, because if you're sponsored by somebody, you're supposed to acknowledge that. I don't know. But also, Buff's Garage, he's already set up for it. Actually, he's the one that kind of turned me on to the whole deal. I contacted them after he got hooked up with them. So Buff's Garage is selling these also. I don't care who you buy them from or whose code you use, but these are excellent. Very bright.
Nice. And
comfortable. So, awesome. All right. That was my little commercial break. But yeah, I remember we were talking about the flashlight deal. I remember getting chewed out so many times holding the flashlight, because my personality is I try to read people. That's just part of who I am. So when I was holding a flashlight for Dad, I was trying to angle it just right so I could see his face too. But in my brain, I didn't realize, well, I'm blinding him. But I was trying to see his face to see if he was getting upset or if he's needing something, trying to stay ahead of the game. Well, then I get chewed. Get that thing out of my light. I can't see with it in my eyes. I need you to point it right here. It's like, yeah. As good as I was with getting extra tools or getting extra parts, I sucked at the flashlight game.
Yeah, talking about lights, I need to finish. I've got I've got about half the lights that I have from my garage up in the garage, and I realized today, now that it's getting dark so early, I'm gonna have to get them up in here. We're not gonna be able to film after 4 o'clock.
Yeah. JTBZ's got to put motor mount bolts. got to the off-road part before you realized it. Just put a rod or ratchet strap.
Well, that's what I said. He put a screwdriver in the passenger side and a bolt half in the driver's side.
Yeah.
Realized it and sent it. Up there a little ways, Shopcat Industries had one. Says he unboxed and fired up 6 new rototillers. Asked the boss what to do with the extra oil, or with the oil that came with them. He said pour the extra to make up a bottle. He thought the engines were shipped with oil.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, ugly trucks. They've got a couple of these Odelfi lights. They really like them. Quality control shouting out 10 minutes till the live after hours live. See the motor mount story.
Oh, Shopcat Industries did one kind of like your truck story with a two-stroke snowmobile looks like.
Oh yeah.
Like a runaway diesel.
Yeah, you can't stop it. Yeah, I have almost run over myself back in the day when I was a kid. I was a kid, but I was a kid when I had kids. So I was underneath my first truck with the bottle jack. Couldn't afford a floor jack, but it's on the grass. So I had it on a bottle jack. I was doing something underneath it. And my oldest boy was just a teeny tiny baby, probably 2 or 3 months old. And his mom were sitting on our four-wheeler in front of the truck, kind of off to the side, but still kind of in front of the truck. And I done something, wiggled the truck. It jumps off the jack and presses me, rolls me flat on my stomach. And all I can do is look forward where the truck's, I'm not even thinking about the rear tire getting ready to run over me. I'm just watching my truck hit the four-wheeler and push the four-wheeler with my wife and baby on it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, and then I realized, oh, there's a tire coming after me. So I try to slide out real quick right as the truck hits the tree. I mean, it was all slow motion. But yeah, don't use bottle jacks.
Yeah. Not a bottle jack story, but kind of a similar story, except it was the wind. I was working on a 53-foot reefer trailer one time, and I had it up and on jack stands. All the tires were off, and it was sitting on the jack stands. And I think I was getting ready to go home for the day, and I heard the wind picking up, and I went out there and looked, and I watched the wind move this trailer sideways on the jacks. Like, it was like 4 inches, but it felt like it went 2 miles. Before I went home, I put all the tires back on it. Left it on the jacks, but at least it had tires on it. If it blew off the jacks, it'd land on the tires, not on the brake drums.
Yeah. Dizzy. Some of my worst mistakes had to do with women. Yeah. Shelman commented the shop door. Yeah, this shop door behind me. I come home from work one day, and my boys were here. Their friends were here. They had a bunch of four-wheelers in the shop working on them. And like, I can't remember how it all played out, but they were all acting a little bit nervous. Or maybe I came home after they'd left and something was weird. I don't remember how it all played out. But I didn't notice what had happened right off the bat. Well, come to find out, they were working on a Polaris four-wheeler, and it finally started, but it was in gear. And they almost, and it was one of their friends. His name was Zane. he almost went through my door, busted the windows out. They had oh, I know what it was. I come in and there's beer boxes taped up over the windows. Really nice and neat. And some of the wood was busted. I'm like, what in the world happened? So yeah, they told me Zane about tore the door out and they fixed it, done the best. It still works. They brought plexiglass, put plexiglass in there, replaced everything. So they fixed their mistake. But oh man, I told all the boys, I said, don't tell Zane that I'm okay with it. Mistakes happen. You guys fixed it. I said, but don't tell him anything. I'm gonna act really, really mad. Of course, I got this going for me anyways. Next time they was at the shop, I walked out to the shop and I was serious. I looked him dead in the eye, just stared at him. And this kid like doesn't know what to do. And I still don't remember exactly how that played out. But basically, like, grab a marker. Like, what? So I went and grabbed a marker for him. Here. He's like, what am I supposed to do with this? I said, sign the door. Zane, I said, sign it. Say Zane was here. I said, that's it. And he's like, he didn't know what to do. Hey, Bear Rose is here.
How's it going, Bear Rose?
I'm going to run through the chat, see if we got anything on. We got just a few more minutes.
Quality Control said 5 minutes if we want to announce next week's topic.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. You go ahead and announce next week's topic. It'll be on your channel.
So we'll be back in Colorado. So we're gonna go over to my buddy Richard's shop, and he is gonna be a special guest, and we're gonna talk about horror stories as a mechanic shop owner and some of the stuff that customers come in and things that he's seen. He said he has some good stories for us, so that should be interesting. We all hear the stories of mechanic shops and the horror stories of going to them. We're going to hear the other side of that coin.
Yeah, I'm sure I can come up with a few of those stories. I've worked in shops.
Well, I guarantee I
for
can.
The public. Yeah. I guess that kind of reminds me of another mix-up or bonehead move that I've made in a shop where I was working at a shop. I'll try to tell it real quick. We just got like a few minutes. Or I guess I could, if everyone wants to jump over to the next live, I'll tell it then. I'll leave a little cliffhanger. It involves a Ford. So a Ford truck and a mountain of a boss that I had. He's like kind of like built like me, but 3 times my size. He's like 6'2", 6'3", just a massive guy. Very intimidating. Quality Controls put the link up.
Ugly Truck, yeah, you'll be able to get on that live. We'll post the link.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they've got some horror stories, being in business for themselves. Jerry's been in business for himself as a shop owner, I think, pretty much his whole career.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the after hour show. We could do that as another one, maybe, or
yeah. I mean, they could chime in on the comments next week on the first hour, and then after hours,
yeah,
they could jump in live because they've finally done their first live a week or two ago on Thanksgiving. That's what it was. They done their first live, so
okay.
We can get them in on the after hours show next week, and they could tell some of their horror stories. Mr. Chevy Truck, what's up? Hey, we are actually fixing to go to another live on my channel. There's some links up here. Mr. Chevy Truck, we're getting ready to jump off and go to another live because we keep the first hour just Travis and I, and then we're going to jump off of here, go live again, same place, but we'll invite some people in, just kind of, it'll get more relaxed, just not really stay on any topic. Yep. Take it easy, Dizzy. All right, we're going to get this shut down and try to get over on the other live real quick. It'll take
Thanks
me just a couple
we'll
minutes.
see you on the after hour show.
Do what?
I said, thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you in the after hour show.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right.
All right.
We will see you over there. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.